Hey guys, Tim here again. Going to shoot a little video today on doing a pot hanger, and this is for my Bushcraft USA. One of my lessons on there. But the first couple of videos I did strictly geared toward doing it for my class. But I wanted to kind of start redirecting my videos to where I show more about what I'm actually doing other than just straight down to the point. Of course, I'm going through the Bushcraft USA forum, going through the basic bushcraft lessons, classes is the reason I'm doing these videos. But I thought as I'm learning, in case somebody else runs across these videos, it would be good if I did more in detail, I guess, more in, I hesitate to say instructional because I'm learning it myself. But hopefully as I learn, and if somebody else runs across these videos, you'll be able to learn at the same time I'm learning. And Terry and Sarge, if you see anything in my videos that I've got incorrect, please leave a comment and let me know so that I can correct that. But shooting this video today for my improvised pot hook, and went ahead and got some of it started. What you'll need for that is a stick with a Y in it for your brace or stand. You'll need, this will be, and this one, of course the Y is cut off, and then I took my hatchet and sharpened it a little bit on the end there so that it can be pushed or drove into the ground. This is a longer stick, which will be the support for the pot. Hopefully this is showing up in the video. And I have a stick here with another stick with a Y in it that's sharpened on the end, and this will be my hold down for the support. It'll be drove in the ground like this, and this part of the Y will hold the bottom of the support to hold the weight of the pot. And there'll be one more piece, this one, and this is actually what the adjustable hanger that I'm working on that the pot will hang off of. And I wanted to mention on this, I've noticed a couple of other guys in their videos mention this, but when you're doing one for a stake, if you can find one that doesn't have a Y where two branches split off, that's kind of a weak point on that branch. But if you can find one where the base of the limb is straight and then it has a limb coming off to the side, then this will be a lot more sturdy and less likely to break off when you drive this part into the ground to hold your support like this right here. That holds that down to the ground to counteract the weight of the pot that's hanging off of it. This laid to the side here now. And for the adjustable part of the pot hanger, I've already got this part of it done. But what you do is cut an X in your branch about halfway through. And I wanted to mention this. A lot of people use these little folding saws, and these are good just for cutting your branches off and stuff like that. Excuse me. But if you're trying to do any detail work, like these X cuts that you need to do for the pot hanger, the little bow in the saw, or radius, is not real good for doing stuff like that detail stuff, because it doesn't cut a flat bottom. It works great on cutting limbs off, because it gives you kind of some extra force to cut through. But and you can do these with your knife too. But what I used for these is my Leatherman Super Tool. It's just got a little saw on it, but that's real good for doing detail cuts like you would do for these X's for the pot hanger, and it gives you a good flat bottom to your X. You can also use your knife to make these X's, and just lay your knife across the branch and baton it until you get about halfway through to make these X's. Or you can use a saw. I used a saw on mine. I kind of believe in using the right tool for the job, and I'm not by any means against batoning a knife. But if I've got a saw that'll do the job with half the effort and less time, then I'm going to use the saw. Again, if all you've got's a knife with you, no saw, then that's great. Baton your knife and cut your X's. Hopefully this will show up in the video. I don't have the camera set up real close. But what you do after you cut your X in there, like I say, I've already got this one cut out, is cut basically 1/2 of that X out to make the hanger. Now this one on the bottom will be where the bail of the pot hangs from, and these on the opposite side will be the adjustable part to be able to raise the pot up or down on each of those. You want to get it closer to the fire or further away from the fire. Let me zoom in here for just a second, get a little bit closer, so this will show up better, and I'll finish cutting these notches out. Alright, I got the camera moved in a little bit closer where hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Another thing I wanted to mention real quick in this video, one of the things that kind of intimidated me or caused me to hesitate getting into bushcraft was the cost of all the gear. You see people on the forums and YouTube videos with all this real nice gear that costs a lot of money. But the more I got to looking on the forum and saw different videos about budget bushcraft and whatnot, the more I realized that you can get into it and have a lot of fun without it costing a lot of money. Wanted to mention a couple of things here, like this hatchet that I've got. Came from Tractor Supply, and I think that's like a $10 or $12 hatchet. No, it's not a Wetterlings or a Granfers Brooks, but it gets the job done. You know, later on, if you can afford to get a more expensive axe, and that's great, but or hatchet. But it doesn't cost a lot of money to get into bushcraft. This little saw here that I mentioned a minute ago, it doesn't even have a name brand on it. But I would guesstimate you could probably pick one of these up for about the same price as the hatchet. I'd say probably around $10, $12. This one was gifted to me by a fellow member on the forum, as well as this Condor bushloader knife. I think this is probably about a $50 knife. You know, a lot of people see on the forums people using custom handmade knives that cost $300, $400, $500, you know, on up, custom made knives, and those are great if you can afford them. But it doesn't mean that you have to have an expensive knife to start practicing bushcraft. You know, you can get a Mora, $20 Mora, or a Condor, and it'll do everything that the expensive ones will do, everything a custom handmade one will do. May not stay sharp as long, but there are plenty of good, inexpensive, I won't say cheap, there's some cheap ones out there, but there are plenty of good, inexpensive alternatives out there. And that, I think I already mentioned, but that was gifted to me by the same member that gifted me the saw. And I cut these limbs off of this little cheap buck saw here, or bow saw, some people call it when it's got the metal frame. Excuse me. But this was hanging in our barn. It belonged to my brother, and he had 2 or 3 of them in there. And I asked him, was he using all of them? And he said, no, this one had never been used. He said, you can have it if you want it. So, you know, just looking around, some of the stuff that your family's got or friends have got, you know, they might have something that you could use for bushcrafting that they might just give to you. But again, this bow saw, you know, probably maybe $15, maybe $20 at the most. You can find it at Tractor Supply or Walmart or somewhere. So you don't have to have a lot of money or expensive equipment to get started in bushcraft. Okay, enough yapping. Let's get back on our pot paint. Alright, on the bottom hook, that's where the pot will hang from. And on these, I'm going to be making my hook part in the opposite direction because they'll be hanging from the opposite direction. So what you want to do is take the bottom side of these X's and just start to notch out the bottom of that X. Always practice safety when you're doing your bushcraft skills, especially when you're using edged tools, knives and axes and hatchets, saws. Always practice safety. Those of you that know me or are familiar with me on the forum know that I have narcolepsy, so I'm not able to get out into the bush like some people, or like most people are, by myself. But it doesn't mean that you can't still have a lot of fun. This little camp that I've got set up here is actually just in my backyard, so, and I live in town, so if you hear dogs barking or car noise or whatnot, that's the reason for the background noise in any of my videos that you see here under this camp here. I'm about 75 feet maybe from the back of my house, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. Just taking the bottom half of that X out and leaving a V shape. You want to go about maybe halfway through the branch. You don't want to go too far and make the branch weak. And then on the bottom of your side of your V here, you want to undercut it just a little bit. What you're trying to get is a point right there that will hang on this stick right here, like that. Undercut these a little bit. Hopefully that shows up well enough in the video. Actually, that's upside down. The pot will be hanging from that one. And again, this one will go like this when I get it all made. And it will hang off of that part. Okay, let's see if we can finish the rest of these X cuts up, get the rest of our notches made. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 X's cut in this branch, and that way I'll have 4 adjustment points for height on hanging my pot to cook over the fire. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. What you want to do is get down in there and get you a good point for that to be able to hang on. Undercut just a little bit there. Easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video there while I finish these second 2 up. And I'll be back in just a minute and show how this sets up. Okay guys, one other thing I didn't mention earlier. Your support stick, I guess what you call it, it's best if it's longer than your other pieces, because that gives you more weight on the opposite end from the pot to help counterbalance the weight of the pot. And what you want to do with it on the part where the hanger is going to fit is take your knife or hatchet and thin the end of it down there. This part is going to be the part that fits into these notches. And what I've seen some people do, and I'm going to do, is to help ensure that that hanger stays on there, is right here on the end, or close to the end, about 1/4 of an inch away. So I'm going to take and make me a little indention or hole there. Doesn't take much, just so that these little points from my hanger, maybe that shows up, and you need this pretty thin so that it fits in your notches. But with that little hole there, the point on the hanger will fit in that hole right there, and that just makes it more secure for your pot to hang off of. Okay, let me get this rearranged, the camera, and I'll show you how all these weird looking pieces fits together. I forgot to mention one other thing. Well, you see the packs that people carry, and they can be real expensive too. The only pack that I've got is one that my kids had when they were in school, and you know, probably a $20 pack from Walmart or something like that. Some of the zippers are messed up on it, but hey, it's a bag to hold my stuff in, so until I can do better, I'll just watch that the stuff don't fall out of it, and keep using a $20 pack until I can do better. Okay, let's see if we can set this thing up. Oh, this is something I just got in yesterday that I'm real proud of. This is my Moore's pot. It hadn't been used yet, but this is, once again, I don't have much money. Having narcolepsy, I've not been able to work for 3 years, so I have to do whatever I can do. The way I got this Moore's pot, this is a $36 pot, but I had made I make tobacco smoking pipes as a hobby, and I had made a tool for pipe making that a guy had seen and wanted, and I didn't have the money to buy me a Moore's pot, a cook set, but he was wanting that pipe tool that I had, so what I did was tell him if he wanted to order me a Moore's pot and send it to me, that I'd send him the pipe tool. So a little bartering, a little trading there, but now I've got me a nice pot with a bell on it to be able to cook over the fire. So there's all kinds of ways of obtaining what you need. A lot of things you can make yourself. But let's see if we can set this thing up. Okay, once again, this is our brace or support. And don't hit down in there, you're liable to split your wire off. And it doesn't have to be in the ground real good, just so there. There's our support. And right back here, we're going to drive our stake in the ground. Forgot to mention this too. When you cut the end off for your stake, you'll take your knife and kind of round that edge there a little bit like that. That will help keep it from splintering out when you go to drive it in the ground. I shouldn't be using that hatchet without a mask on it, but unfortunately I don't have a mask for the hatchet. It would be a lot safer if this had a mask on it, so just be extra careful. Alright. If I need to get a little extra height, I can pull my Y back there. pot hangs on the bottom one like that. Trim that one just a little bit more. A little sharper point on it. I don't have any water in my pot for weight. It would balance out better if I had the water already in it. Too low. Alright, it's balancing so-so. But if the pot had water in it, it would balance out better. Let me grab some water and put in there, and I'll be right back. Okay, got about a quart of water put in my pot to help make that balance out. And move my little fire pit here a little bit closer to the stand. But as you can see, the weight of the water made it balance out better. And like I said before, hopefully y'all can, or somebody can get the benefit of learning along with me as I do for these lessons and classes. It would have been better if my stand had been higher and if my support stick had been longer, so that I could have got it higher over the fire, so that I could have got better use out of my adjustment on that. But that's in the highest setting, and might be able to get a second one here. Yeah, if we had it cooked down to a bed of coals, we could get down to that one. But there's my pot hanger for my BCUSA class, and hopefully somebody else, if you run across this video, you might learn something along with me. And thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks BCUSA for all your hard work to do these classes. Thanks.